Okay, so in that feeling, right, you work so hard towards something, maybe it's landing a huge client or finally getting that promotion, and yeah, there's that initial rush, you're on top of the world.
Definitely that sense of accomplishment.
Exactly. But then a few weeks or months pass, and that feeling kind of fades. You're back to the daily grind, and you start to wonder what really.
You are not here to survive, you're here to live on purpose. My name is Markus Spenger and I'm a high performance coach. And within this show, we're going to reflect on purpose, on clarity, on focus in your life. So enjoy this episode reflecting my content from the Bleibe Anders podcast from Austria. And if you really like the show, well, hit the subscribe button and leave also a comment there, and talk to you soon. And now let's have fun with the rest of the show.
Keeps us going? What truly drives that consistent effort day after day?
It's a cycle so many of us high achievers know all too well. Those external wins are amazing, but they don't always translate to long-term motivation.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today, the real deal about motivation, not just the fleeting highs. And to help us unpack this, we're turning to a really insightful conversation from Markus Spenger's Bleibe Anders podcast.
It's a great episode, packed with useful insights.
It is. And for our listeners out there, the leaders, the entrepreneurs, always pushing boundaries, always looking for that perfect blend of clarity, focus, and just feeling balanced in life. We're aiming to break down what really motivates us versus what just feels like someone's trying to control us with some kind of reward.
It's about going beyond those surface-level motivators and tapping into something deeper.
Yes, exactly. We want to give you insights you can actually use starting right now. So let's get down to it. What's the real difference between that motivation that comes from within and those external pressures or incentives that can sometimes feel a bit manipulative?
The core question.
Yes, the core question we're tackling today. Let's start with the basics. The idea of motivation itself. Where does that concept even come from?
So the word motivation actually has roots in the Latin word movere, which means to move. And this is something Markus Spenger emphasizes right from the start. Motivation at its heart is that force that gets us moving.
The thing that really gets us going.
Yeah, and Spenger goes on to define genuine motivation as that internal drive, or what we often call intrinsic motivation.
That makes total sense, that inner spark.
Precisely. Intrinsic motivation, it comes from our own desires, our values, the enjoyment we find in doing something just for the sake of it. Think about a hobby you're passionate about. You do it because you love it, not because you're getting paid or recognition for it.
I love that example. When you can tap into what truly motivates you and your team, it's like finding a source of energy that never runs out. It's not about the short-term wins, it's about that internal fire that keeps you going.
And here's where it gets even more interesting, the connection between our motivations and our personal values. Spenger makes a really powerful analogy. He compares our values to stars in the sky guiding us throughout life. He even talks about a North Star representing our overall purpose in life, our big why.
I love that imagery. Our values, even if we don't always consciously think about them, they shape what brings us true satisfaction and what ultimately motivates us. It's like having this internal compass always pointing us in the right direction.
And it's super important to remember that these motivators, they're not set in stone. What drives a 15-year-old is going to be totally different from what motivates someone who's 25, 45, or 65. Our priorities and perspectives, they change as we go through life.
All right, thinking back to my early career, what motivated me then is so different from what drives me now. It makes you realize that we can't just assume we know what motivates someone else, especially if their life experiences and current priorities are different from our own.
That's a huge point for leaders and anyone working in teams. We can't just project our own motivations onto others. Spenger's advice is to ask questions. Really try to understand their individual stars and where they are on their unique path.
Which brings us to that central theme from the Bleibe Anders podcast episode, the often blurry line between real motivation and manipulation. It's something we should all be more aware of, especially if we're in a position of influence. We try to motivate others, but are we sometimes crossing into manipulation without even realizing it?
That's where self-awareness becomes super important, not just at work, but in all our interactions. Spenger breaks down different types of manipulation, starting with negative manipulation, what he calls bestraffum, or punishment.
The classic threat of consequences to get people to do what you want.
Exactly. It might work in the short term, but it rarely builds long-term trust or motivation. And then he digs into the trickier types of positive manipulation, the kind that pretends to be motivation.
Oh yeah, the sneaky ones.
He even touches on using mislead or pity as a tactic, although he doesn't go into too much detail on that in this episode. But the ones he really focuses on are Belobigung, which is praise, and Belohnung, which is rewards.
Ah, yes, the carrot and stick approach.
And this is where it becomes so relevant for leaders and entrepreneurs. Semmer uses the example of career advancement as a carrot that can sometimes feel more like a bribe.
So it's like saying hit these numbers and you get promoted. It becomes transactional.
Exactly. And while professional growth is important, when it's only presented as a reward for hitting certain metrics, it loses its appeal. It feels less like genuine development and more like you're just buying someone's effort.
It takes away the intrinsic motivation.
Right. And then there's the whole thing about annual bonuses tied to performance reviews. Spenger actually asks us to be honest with ourselves. Does that truly motivate you in the long run? What do you think?
I mean, we all love a good bonus, but does it really fuel that long-term drive? I'm not so sure.
And this is where he brings in some fascinating research from behavioral psychology. Studies have shown that we adapt to financial rewards pretty quickly, often within 3 to 6 months. That initial boost fades, and it becomes the expectation.
It's like that story he tells about the car service that offers a free car wash. At first, it's this nice bonus, but then it becomes something you just expect. And if you don't get it, you actually feel a little cheated.
Exactly. It highlights how quickly external rewards can become entitlements. Their power to motivate diminishes as we get used to them. And this leads to Spenger's main point, that our attempts to motivate others from the outside can often end up being manipulation. We can't force someone to be truly motivated. We can only influence their behavior temporarily.
So if relying on external rewards and punishments isn't the answer, where should we focus our energy both as individuals and as leaders? This is where Spenger shifts gears and gives us some actionable tools to tap into our own intrinsic motivation. He poses 3 questions that are surprisingly simple but really powerful.
I love this part. It's all about empowering the listener.
Me too. The first question is, what did I enjoy doing as a child?
It seems almost too basic, but there's so much wisdom in that question, right? It takes us back to those pure joys, those things we loved doing before external validation came into the picture.
Just pure, unadulterated fun.
And Spenger suggests just brainstorming whatever pops into your head, don't overthink it. The second question builds on that. What do I enjoy doing in my life even though I don't get paid for it? This gets to the core of intrinsic motivation, the things we do just because we love them.
That feeling of being totally absorbed in something where time just flies by.
Exactly. What some people call flow. Spenger even jokes about how recording a podcast and talking a lot falls into this category for him.
It's true for me too. And then the third question is especially relevant for anyone feeling stuck or unfulfilled in their career. Think about those things you enjoyed as a child and what you love doing now without getting paid, and consider where those passions and talents might be valuable in the job market.
It's not about finding the perfect 100% match. Spenger says that even a partial alignment, maybe 50 to 80% with your core values and motivators, can make a huge difference in how much you enjoy your work.
Finding that sweet spot where your passions overlap with your skills.
It's about finding that intersection where your genuine enjoyment meets your ability to make a meaningful contribution.
And bringing this back to our listeners, those high achievers constantly juggling demanding schedules, understanding your own intrinsic motivation can be game-changing. It can bring more clarity to your decisions, help you focus better, and ultimately create that sense of balance we all crave.
Totally agree. These 3 questions are not just abstract ideas. They're practical tools you can use today to understand yourself better, both personally and professionally.
So to wrap up this deep dive, the key takeaway from Markus Spenger's Bleibianders podcast is that there's a big difference between the short-term effects of external manipulation and the lasting power of intrinsic motivation. Those external rewards and punishments, they might get temporary results, but they rarely create true long-term engagement and drive.
And the real value for you as a listener lies in those 3 powerful questions. They're a starting point for uncovering what truly motivates you, your internal stars that can lead you to more fulfilling work and a more balanced life.
We really encourage you to take action on this. Don't just listen and forget. Actively engage with those questions. What made you happy as a child? What do you love doing now, just for the pure joy of it? And how might those passions connect even partially with your current or future career? Think about how these insights can shape your decisions, big and small, and how you lead and interact with your team.
Discovering what motivates you is an ongoing journey. It's not a one-time thing, but the rewards, greater fulfillment, higher productivity, a deeper sense of purpose, they're absolutely worth the effort.
And if you want to explore these ideas further, we highly recommend listening to the full episode of the Bleibianders podcast by Markus Spenger. It's full of great insights on motivation and living a more intentional and fulfilling life.
So as you keep navigating your busy professional and personal life, here's something to think about. How can you cultivate that inner drive within yourself? And even more importantly, how can you create environments where the people you lead can connect with their own deep motivations? That's the ultimate key to sustainable success and well-being.
Food for thought.
Absolutely food for thought.
Ready to stop chasing and start living? Book your free clarity call at markusspenger.com or download your free clarity report to gain focus, build inner strength, and live with direction and purpose. Because, life is too short to just function. It's time to lead from within. Be bold, be clear, be you.